Hello, and welcome to Writer's Block. I'm your host, Adelina. Let's find your story. Why do I not want to write? That's a good question. There's some days where I don't want to write. There's some days where I do want to write. It's a very interesting process. Yes. Um Writing is not all fairy tales and rainbows and sparkles and insert whatever you want to put here. Um, and there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, being an author, being a screenwriter, being a writer in general is a really easy job. It's a really just a um safe job." Quoting my favorite band, Cake. Some people think I'm safe. One of the hit song "Opera Singer" by the band Cake. Um, and sometimes, yeah, it can feel like this extremely easy thing. You're rowing through this first draft and it's going great, but on the other hand, okay, after you get all your excitement out with your planning, with your book, with this idea and having just this um this creative avalanche almost. It's The avalanche has to end at some point, and it's going to end at the bottom of the mountain where you don't want to do anything. And I get it. And I've been at a multiple different points with that, even with starting to build my business here, which is not a business masterclass. I won't like bore you with the details here, but building my own business and my website and everything I'm doing, writing these podcasts, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna script them out to full. What I have on my laptop is just a bunch of bullet points, really, because I'm like, I don't need to script this out, right? I like to think of myself as a good talker. I yap a lot. Some people call me a yapaholic, TM, but also at the same time, I go off on tangents, and that's okay. And that's okay. It's called a podcast because I'm talking. So I'm the one. I'm the one talking here. You're listening, so that's great. But it's really just an ups and downs type thing. Um, when I Google from Google.com writer's block definitions from Oxford Languages Dictionary, writer's block is defined as a phase of a writer, the condition of being unable to think of what to write or how to proceed with writing. And the little quote they have, the little thing, the novelist recovered from a 2-year bout with writer's block. Now, 2 years. Let's not make it a point where you have 2 years worth of writer's block. Ooh, okay, listen, that's not the kind of writer's block that I'm here to talk to you about. If you have a 2-year long writer's block, I don't you might need to pay to see someone. And that someone is not me. I will not know what to do for you. I'm sorry if that's what you're here for. 2 years, that's 365 times two. That's crazy. Um, I'm not. I can't do that math. I'm I'm not gonna do that math. There's a reason why it's not a math podcast. I said that 2 podcasts in a row. I realized, but that is the Oxford Languages Google is if you Google the definition of writer's block, that's what comes up for you. But why why would you lose motivation in the first place? Now I already talked about the whole creative avalanche, right? You're climbing up this mountain when you have all these ideas, you're sorting out your ideas, you're climbing up this big snowy mountain that you're gonna ski, snowboard, snowmobile, whatever. I don't know. I don't like the snow, but I'm trying to use a metaphor here. Is it working? I don't know. but you're climbing up this mountain in Colorado, Alaska. Do they have mountains? I don't know. Somewhere where it's cold. Um, and you're creating these ideas. You're coming up with your story, the idea that you originally had for this book, screenplay, poetry book. You know, you could have a whole concept just for one poetry book. There's this poet that I follow. I think her name is Reagan. She wrote this poetry book called Lover Girl, and it's a great book. I read through it in one sitting. Obviously, it's a poetry book, so I just kind of like went through all the pages. But I'll I'll still go back and read through some of the poems, and they're just really they're really great poems. I love them. I love them. I love them. I love them. I love a little bit of poetry. I love a wee bit of poetry. I love Shel Silverstein. Shel Silverstein is funny. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Went for a ride in a flying shoe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, but right, you come to this the peak of the hill, the climax, right, in your little elementary school charts that they make you. You know the story charts that they make you do in elementary school that at least I had to do. I don't know. Americans, let me know. I don't know what goes on in those other countries. I'm not a fan of British people, I guess. I don't know. Um but you're right. You're on this hill, right? You're at the tippy top of this hill, and you're ready. You got your skis. You're going. Okay, you didn't take the ski lift. You ice picked. You climbed up. You went through the troves. It might have taken you a couple of days. You had a little tent set up on a little ice shelf. You might have. I don't know. This is your story, not mine. Um, and so, right, you're climbing. You got all these details. Your characters. You found your characters on the way up. You grabbed your characters. I don't know, characters, plot, whatever. It's on the way up, and you get your skis ready or your snowboard, whatever, or snowmobile, whatever you prefer, whatever. I'm not one to judge, but yeah, all of that, and you're getting ready to go down the mountain. And as you're going down the mountain, it'll start easy. Your first draft, right? Like you're in the beginning of your first draft, and then oh no, the avalanche is behind you, and it comes crashing down, and you're rushing, you're running, you're going through your first draft. Oh my god, oh my god, it's getting harder as it goes, and then you're at the bottom, and it's just bleh, right? That's my little metaphor. Don't know if it worked. It's not working for me. So um but right, you're at the very bottom now, right? You did all of that, and now you've lost your motivation. Now, one of the biggest things in losing motivation is that um it's just like okay, like I made my first draft. Okay, what am I supposed to do? It's just literally just not knowing where to go, or like, oh my god, like I spent all of this energy. You spent a lot of your creative energy in just keep like just rah, like you you just like you just spent all your creative energy on the plotting and the story mapping and your beat sheet or and just all of these different things, and then you just splat on the ground after the avalanche because you got your first draft done or your rough draft, whatever you want to call it, done, and now you don't know what to do. And now, right, you spent all that energy, and now you just don't want to do anything. You just don't want to do anything. And there's other stuff too. You could have like a bunch of other stuff going on that's draining, and is just like you just don't feel like writing for whatever reason. There's a bunch of reasons, and a lot of them I probably don't even know what they are, and whatever. I'm not that I don't know. I'm not intertwined into every single person's everyday lives, but right, you just feel a lack of creativity, whether you haven't been like this is the first time that you've really been like doing like a big creative project like this, and you can then you're not used to being like that creative all the time, and you're losing your creative momentum because you haven't, I guess, built up this creative momentum to keep on writing through this entire time. So it's very, very much something that is more like practice makes perfect type thing. Like the more you do it, the better you will get at it. Not necessarily perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm sure like a bunch of these writers aren't perfect. Like whatever. Like I mean, the final book that you're seeing out on the shelf is not the first draft. It will never ever be the first draft. And honestly, like funny thing, in my first draft of my current book that I'm writing was so bad. I hated it. I hated it a lot, and I changed so many things about it. And all my friends were like, "Oh my god, can I read it? Can I read it?" I'm like, "No, I wouldn't even want like my worst enemy. Like if like I wouldn't punish my worst enemy to read what my first draft was because it was garbaje. It was uh garbage. I don't. What is it? I can't think of it. Whatever. Um, but like it was really bad. And your first draft is going to be bad. No matter what you're writing, what you're doing, like you're the first thing that you write down on a page, regardless, is going to be shit. It's period. Point blank. The first time you write a story, the first time that you're getting into the groove of new characters, new storyline, whatever, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck the first time around, and that's okay. And that is okay. It's gonna suck real bad the first time around, and again, that is totally fine. That is more than okay for that to be a thing, and you don't honestly don't worry about it because your favorite author has probably scrapped a billion stories before they actually got one that they stuck with, that they were able to stick with, and they were able to get published, that they were able to pitch to be published. So, um, but writer's block and motivation loss as writers is very important. It's very important that we move through phases, and that it's a very important part of being a writer. It's something that every single writer experiences. So you're officially a writer once you get writer's block and you don't know what to do. Congratulations, you're a real darn tootin' writer because you are not a writer if you get writer's block. If you don't get writer's block, then I mean, good for you, I guess, but you're also probably not doing something right. I'm gonna be so honest because there have been stories where I've written where I didn't get writer's block at all because I was just throwing random stuff at the page. I wasn't actually thinking. I wasn't actually thinking about the story and or like spending all of my creativity into the story to where I wasn't asking these important questions, and I wasn't trying to figure out what was really wrong with my story. I'm like, no, the story is great, whatever. I wasn't critiquing myself enough, to where the story was like, and I look back at it like now about whatever, and I'm back and whoa, and I'm like, I'm like, wow, this sucks. Why did I write that? This is big. It's a big thing. I'm like, wow, that I was really stupid to put that on a page, to put that into existence in this world. Um, so because I would just wrote all of these drafts. I'm like, this is great. This is great. It wasn't improving. It wasn't improving as a story. So like, if you're not critiquing yourself and you're not stuck in trying to make your next move and really thinking about it, you're probably not doing it right. Eh, you know, whatever. But it's it's hard to work through, but the biggest thing is to just keep on working through it. Just keep going. If you don't want to write, write. Just keep writing. Obviously, if you're at a standstill where you don't know what to write, work around, right? You can maybe, okay, if you're working on your second draft and you're stuck on a chapter, move a few move, okay, and you have an idea, for like one, like your final chapter or something, move to that. Just keep on writing. Just keep, even if it's something completely different. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna put a pin in this and I'm gonna come back to it, but I know exactly what I want to do with my like last 2 or 3 chapters. Do that instead. Don't put yourself, especially once you have the first draft written, because the first draft is so important. It's just getting the story out. Don't worry about anything else with the first draft, which is why they're mostly like a lot of authors, including myself. I'm like, just get the first draft out, even though it's going to be crappy, but then you have the story and you can add on to it, you can change it, whatever, within your further drafts because you have the time. You have the time to do it. The sooner you can get your first draft out, the more time that you have for your second, third, fourth, fifth, however many drafts that you need. Um, is the biggest thing. Just get the story down. Just get the story in your head. Get acquainted. Just know your characters. Write your characters, and then you can move from there. But just working through, even if like you don't have like, if if you just don't want to write, which there's some days where I'm like, okay, like I know what I have to do, but I don't want to do it. Just write. Just set aside at least 30-ish minutes and just write. Um, because even if there's days where you don't want to write, there's my choir teacher introduced this to me, micro goals, right? A small little goal that will just get you moving in the right direction. So if you don't want to write, if you're just a day where you're like, oh, like I know what I need to do, I just don't want to do it. Open up your laptop, open up your notebook, grab your pencil, like have the micro goal. Okay, I'm gonna open up my laptop. Okay, that's a micro goal. Open up your writing software, whatever you use to write. Okay, that's a micro goal. Like if you set yourself up, like micro goals, like for some people they're different, but like if I want to, I don't know, like learn to how to play the banjo, whatever, right? A micro goal to go and for me to learn and play the banjo is not going to be buy a banjo. That is way too big of a goal. My micro goal is going to be watch a video about a banjo. Watch a video of someone playing the banjo. Watch a video on what banjos are good banjos. Whatever. It's not going to be go to the nearest guitar center and buy a banjo or start getting banjo lessons. That is right. Those are very big goals. And for someone who has like, if you already have a banjo and you've already kind of been playing around with it and you've watched some tutorials, that next micro goal of yours might be call the music place where you want to get lessons from. Call them. Call the music place. That's your micro goal, not start getting lessons, right? Call the music place, okay? And then from there, because then your goal, the micro goal could even be pick up your phone. And then, it's something that is extremely tiny that will put you in the right direction to start moving towards your bigger goals, which is why I hate New Year's resolutions because they're so big, broad goals. It could be like, okay, well, in the new year, I want to learn a language. That's a huge goal to accomplish. In the new year, I want to open up Duolingo once a day. That is a smaller goal than learning a whole language. I want to open up Duolingo. Just open up the app or Rosetta Stone, whatever you want to use, right? I want to just open the app. Just open the app. Like I want to read for 30 minutes a day. Okay. Well, your micro goal could be just pick up the book. Just pick up the book and or pick up the book and open it. That's, something just as simple as that is going to put you in the right direction to completing that larger goal. Not that having larger goals is not a bad thing, obviously, but when you have these micro goals, they're a lot easier to accomplish than these big broad goals. Okay, well, like, oh well, I want to have my I need to write my first draft. Okay, that's great. Setting a deadline for yourself is also different than setting like a goal for yourself, right? Like your overall goal is writing this book, screenplay, whatever, right? But then then those deadlines are also micro goals to have the drafts done. So we use micro goals without even knowing, and I've just become more aware of them because of my choir teacher. But it's definitely a good thing to keep your creativity flowing. And yeah, just open up your laptop, open up your writing software, open up your notebook, pick up a pencil, whatever. Just doing that, and even moving, okay, like what, like you're stuck on chapter 17, but you know what you want to do with chapter 21, move to chapter 21 and then go back. Because if you have your story down, just jump around, just fucking do whatever. Um but that's also why story mapping and beat sheets for screenwriters are extremely important, because then when you have all of your details on written on one page as well and transferring them into your story, it's a lot easier for you to go back in and realize, oh, I missed this. This is what my original idea was. Like, and I didn't even put that in my story the first time. So like going back in, like, and then if you want to change stuff, you have a little bit of a better idea on what you want to change it to, how it's going to fit into the story. If you already mapped everything out, did your beat sheet, whatever. And for screenwriters, I've written a lot of beat sheets. They are extremely helpful. Do not skip them. I know there's a lot of novelists that will just go in and just write the story without a plan, and that's fine too. I know I'm forgetting his Stephen King. Stephen King will just write he'll have like he'll have an idea in his head, but he won't map anything out and he'll just go and write it. And I think for like people who are writing books, in a sense that's a good thing, because it lets you know your characters more, but at least knowing your beginning, middle, and end is and having it written out is something that is going to be extremely helpful, especially when you're going back and editing in your drafts, because then you're like, okay, well, what was my knowing what your original plan was and where you want to change it is just really helpful. Um, and yeah, screenwriters, beat sheets, do a beat sheet because it is going to help you so much. It's just going to help you plug in into your writing way better, anyways. Um, it's basically, yeah, you're just writing the story. Like, this the scene, what you want to happen in the scene, and then the next scene, what you want to happen in that, and then it helps you even just before you go in and write it. If you want to change things, it helps you see the scenes like way more condensed, and it is a lifesaver. I love beat sheets. But and something like that can also help, like, if you know what you're going to write and if you're, excited about it, because your boredom can reflect in your writing sometimes. If you're bored with the story, you're not going to do that great of a job on your storytelling, and it's going to reflect in your writing. It's your emotions will reflect within your writing. That doesn't mean that then, like, okay, well, I'm bored, but like I'm not going to write, but I know what to do. No. Right. You got to write. Just because you are not feeling up to it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. But then you also get to tap into your characters to make sure that your boredom doesn't reflect in your writing. And maybe it will. And then when you go back in a better mood, then you'll just change it. Whatever. You'll be like, wow, this sucks. And then you're going to change it. So that's what multiple drafts are for. Mm, And going through the different drafts, you will definitely have different energy levels. The first draft, you'll have a lot. The second draft, you probably won't have that much energy. I'm in the middle of my second draft right now, and I'm definitely like a little bit more bored with it. And then, like, I feel like if you just keep moving in your momentum, it is the best thing that you can do. Sitting and waiting to start another draft is the worst thing you can do. And take that from me, who I waited, and granted, like, I was doing other things that I needed to do, but I finished my first my second draft a month before, more than a month, like 2 months before my deadline, before I set my deadline. Um and so I waited like a week or two cuz I was doing other stuff to jump back into it. That was the worst decision that I could have ever made, because now I'm just slowly hacking away at my book. And granted, in between writing your drafts, what I'm doing right now is I'm reading through my story to make sure that it still makes sense, that there's not any plot holes, anything that I want to add, and I'm writing it down and doing all of that. Doing that before you start a next draft is a great thing to do. Do not wait. Do not wait. You can give yourself, okay, give yourself a day. But after that, no. No. Absolutely not. Because if you wait to give yourself a little bit of time and whatever, you are not going to want to do it at all. You're not going to want to. And take that from me, who has been like with my draft, with this second draft that I'm done, and I'm moving into my third, you know? Do just don't wait. Do not, because it's going to just drop your momentum, and momentum is so important when it comes to writing, because you're just don't do what I did. Like, take it from me. Learn from me. I suck, and don't do what I did. But, and especially like, okay, if you're waiting for your story, like, or waiting like in between your drafts, and at least you're reading your story, that's great. Read your story. Read your story a million times. Read your outline a million times. Read your characters and all of that jazz a million times. I cannot stress this enough. Read your story. Know your story, because that is going to be the biggest advantage that you will have when going into your drafts, right? Grammar, blah, 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 whatever. That can be fixed with one copy and paste into Grammarly. Like, grammar mistakes, whatever. Like, run on sentences, whatever. Those can be fixed. But plot holes, like, those can be fixed in two seconds from an editor, Grammarly, whatever you want to use. But plot holes and, you know, shorter chapters that you want to make longer chapters that need to be made shorter, just all of these things, you are the only one that can fix them. If you know your story, if you read your story a million times and you catch these plot holes, you catch these mistakes within your writing, or like, I don't have enough foreshadowing in my writing, you just gotta read your story. Read your story like nobody else, all right? Read your story like a insane fangirl that is obsessed with your story and whatever. If you're writing a romance, read this like read this like a middle-aged white woman who's clinging on to the smut of this, who just loves smut and just wants to read it over and over again because she loves it. All right? Be that middle-aged white woman who's reading cringy ass smut and just loves this one book, this one male main character, whatever. Be that white woman, okay? Read your story an insane amount of times, okay? All right, read it like an obsessed 16-year-old girl that with Twilight, okay? Right? Yeah, how many times have you watched your favorite movie? I've watched mine a bajillion times. I don't know how many times I've seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but I can probably quote that movie front to back. I'm going to be so honest. Read it like you are watching your favorite movie of all time. Read it like you are hyper fixated on this damn book. Read it, read it, read it. I cannot stress this. I could just not stress it enough. Read it. Don't take a break in between your drafts, because then you really won't want to write, and it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good. All right. If you have any other questions, you can go to the Google form that is linked in my link tree. That should be in the description of the video. And as well as, if you have any other questions, you can go to my website, which will also be linked, and either fill out the contact form, or you can subscribe to my email newsletter for and you can if you have any other questions, you can go to the Google form linked in my link tree, and I will answer that either on here or on my Instagram, Adelina Zach Author, which is also linked in that link tree as well. Or you can go to my website, fill out the contact form if it's anything specific to your story or you have a business inquiry. Or you can, and on that same website, you can join my email newsletter, which then will allow you access to join a Discord with many other writers where you can, and I'm going to be active in there too, so you can talk to me there, respond to the emails in the newsletter. You'll have access to my email that you can respond to, and I will try my best to get back to people, as well as just join a community of writers in the Discord and swap scripts, stories, give each other advice, and yeah. See you next time.